My name is Tim Roswick, and today I want to talk about sales. Sales is a fun subject, especially among game developers who happen to love marketing and love selling stuff. I'm being sarcastic, of course, because most game developers that I know hate it, viciously hate it, would rather do anything in their life than marketing or sales or anything to do with that. In fact, we'd probably prefer not to talk to people at all. Like, let's just be real. Nobody really wants to talk to other people, especially if you're an introvert, you like to make video games, you probably don't want to talk to other people. But what I realized, what helped me growing up, because I used to be afraid of sales too, right? Ironically, I ended up running a marketing company. But crazy story is, I used to be an introvert. I used to be afraid to talk to people. I used to get panic attacks when I would get a phone call. I'd have to do business over email most of the time because I was so terrified of phone calls and interactions. And it took me years, literally years, to work up the courage to be able to get in-person meetings with clients. And it's not just clients in business, but also in my personal life, right? Meeting people, talking to people was just crazy to me. I joke with my brother a lot that if he didn't have friends growing up, I wouldn't, because we were around the same age. He's 2 years younger than me. And he always had friends and he always brought them home, and then I would make friends with him. Just because I sucked at talking to people. So it's crazy that something like sales is so important, yet so many people are bad at it, right? And people enter an industry like games, like indie game development, and they have no experience in sales, no experience in marketing, but they expect to be able to have a successful business. And it's quite common in the art industry. It's anything to do with art. If you look at artists, you look at painters, you look at musicians, things are very similar because people think that if their art is great, if they create great art, whatever it is, that people will just spread it. And there's some truth to that, but at the end of the day, what you do as marketing is a multiplier, on what you actually sell. And sales is one of the things that you have to do if you're in a business for yourself. And as an indie game developer, you are in business for yourself. And I remember the first time that I had to figure out how to sell something. It was actually when I was a little kid. My parents ran a nonprofit organization. And one of the things that we did to raise money was to sell honey in front of grocery stores. We had I think it was one of their friends or somebody that owned a bee farm, and he actually donated a bunch of honey, and we would bottle it and then sell it in front of grocery stores to kind of raise money for the organization. That was one of the fundraisers that we kind of did because we didn't really know what else to do. And I say we, but really it was them. I was probably 10 years old at the time, 8 or 10, something like that. And I remember being terrified of selling, being terrified of going up there, because we were a family. We would do things like that together, and I was so scared to do that. And I remember there was this guy that came out of the grocery store, because we would literally set up a table right in front of the grocery store. Got kicked out plenty of times. Oh, crazy life, Tim stories. But there was this guy that came out and he was like, "Was everything all right?" And I was like, "What?" I was 10 years old at the time, but I was just being super timid, kind of standing there, kind of hiding from people at the table. And I kind of told him what we had and what we had for sale, and he was like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "Do what?" And he's like, hide like that. If you want to sell something, you have to be more confident. And I didn't really understand what he was saying. I was just like, I don't really want to be here anyway. I'm kind of stuck here, I got to sell this stuff. My parents told me to sell this stuff. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm kind of scared of people, but that was what I was doing. And I think I had always been grown up in an entrepreneur lifestyle. My parents were always entrepreneurial minded. They always built things, were always in some venture. Never really held down jobs. They were always selling records, or my dad had a pawn shop, or random little things. And I remember this guy told me, he's like, "Don't be afraid to be a salesman, because everybody's a salesman." And I didn't really know what that meant. At 10 years old, I didn't really know. What do you mean everybody's a salesman? No, they're not. I want to be a video game maker. I don't want to be a salesman. They're not salesmen. But as I grew older, like I kind of realized this. I don't think he came up with that because I've heard it a couple times around. And I, for me, the meaning is so much different now because the fact that everybody can sell something, right? Whether it's your job at work, whether it's people partnering up with you, whether it's shoes at a shoe store, whether you're trying to convince somebody to go on a date with you, whether you're trying to like, whatever it is, everybody's a salesman of something. Everybody can sell something in some way or another. Everybody is a salesman. And when you think about sales, not just from like, a lot of people think it in the negative light of like trying to manipulate someone into buying something. But when you instead think about it as trying to make somebody's life better, right, with your product or service, because that's what you should do, right? Like if you don't have a product or service to make somebody's life better, you shouldn't be in business for yourself. You shouldn't be in business at all, right? Like if your product or service is going to make somebody's life worse, you're running some kind of scam or something, you're doing something that after the transaction takes place, they're going to be worse off. You're going to fail in business because you're not doing it the right way. So you have to know without a shadow of a doubt that what you have is good, that what the service or the product that you're providing, the game that you're making, is going to make their life better in some way. It's going to be worth their transaction. And if you truly believe that, you are helping them along, right? You are actually helping them by telling them all the different reasons why they should buy this thing. So sales is just kind of convincing someone to make their life better in a way. As long as your product is positive, it makes a positive impact. And everybody's a salesman. So you have experience with this, whether you think so or not. At one point or another, you've had to convince somebody of something, or you tried to convince somebody of something, or you tried to sell somebody on something, or you tried to make something happen, right? Maybe you're trying to sell your friends on a camping trip. Maybe you're trying to, whatever it is, trying to get a discount at a yard sale. Whatever it is, everybody is a salesman at some point in their life. Salesman about something, and everybody can persuade somebody about something. And so all you really have to do is kind of look back in yourself and kind of think where you've done that and apply it elsewhere. And again, a lot of people just get tripped up. They get caught up in the fact that they feel dirty. Like sales makes them feel dirty, right? Like it's bad. Well, it's only bad if you got a shitty product. If you got a shitty game and you're trying to sell somebody hard on the game, yeah, that's bad. You shouldn't be doing that because it's not going to be worth their money. You're going to take their money, they're going to get your game, and you're going to let them down. So it comes down to having a good product. You have to have the faith in your product, right? And sometimes it comes down to self-esteem, which is another issue. Sometimes self-esteem is low, and as a result, we attribute the product to being low, right? Like if you don't believe in yourself, how can you believe something you created is awesome? So that's an issue too. Don't always think that you have a shitty product, especially if you feel like that way. But you just got to think about like whether or not your game or your product or your service is worth it. Whether or not what you're selling is actually worth them buying it. And if it is, if it's going to make their life better, if this transaction is going to leave both people better off, it's a win-win. And there's no way that you should feel bad or guilty about anything. You're trying to persuade somebody to help their life, improve their life, entertain themselves, have fun, do something cool, right? You're not doing anything bad. You're not doing anything that you should feel guilty for. There's nothing wrong with it because everybody's a salesman in some way or another. You've done this in some other aspect of your life. I know you have, right? It's not just with money transactions. It's not just with video games. It's with any time you've tried to convince anybody of anything. And like I said, as long as it's in the best interest of both parties, you're good. You win. It's a win-win. Nobody loses, right? Now, if you trying to scam somebody or you don't have a good product or anything like that, then you should feel guilty. You should feel bad about trying to sell stuff. And you absolutely should not try and convince people to buy your stuff. And I've been in that moral obligation dark area in my marketing company. It's one of the reasons why I didn't have fun. It's because sometimes I would get hired to sell stuff that I didn't believe in, and my job would be to convince people to buy stuff I didn't think they should buy. That's why I hated it. That's why I did not like it. But when you're in business for yourself, you choose what products you want to market. You choose what products you want to sell. Just like in life, you choose what you want to persuade people on. You don't try and persuade everybody in anything. Some people do, not always. But you choose what you want to do, and whatever you built, you got to believe in it enough to be able to sell it, just like you do in other aspects of life. So everybody's a salesman. That's all I got for you today. If you found this useful, hit me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts. If you could leave me a comment, I will maybe respond to you. I'll read them all every time. So once again, my name is Tim Roswick, and I'll see you again tomorrow.